Hello, friends. Welcome to the Cold War Prepper. My name is Lee. Today I'm going to do a video. This is a request from a follower in Turkey. And she said, Lee, please give us something to do before, during, and after an earthquake. So that's what this is going to be. We're going to be talking about earthquakes. I've just recording this 4 times already, twice on one program, twice on another program. The first program, I couldn't find the files that it recorded where it sent the recording to. The other one just didn't record twice. So I gave up. So I said, I'll just do this on my cell phone. So here we are on the cell phone, and we're talking about earthquakes. So the first thing is, every morning there's a 3-minute video put out by a guy by the name of Suspicious Observer. And so I strongly recommend you see that, because he puts out what's happening with the sun. And so solar activity appears to have an impact on volcanic and seismic activity here on our planet Earth. So here's what I want you to think of. And this is very, very simplistic. This is Lee's simplistic way of describing it. It's a lot more complex than this. But imagine you have this electromagnet, the sun, and it sends out its electromagnetic claw, okay? And you've got this let's call it a balloon, okay? And inside the balloon, you have all these iron fragments. We call that lava, or we call that, the crust of the earth or whatever. But you've got all this iron, okay? So you take this electronic claw and you wrap it around the earth, and what happens? All that iron, all that lava, all that pressure kind of goes towards the surface. And as it goes towards the surface, it causes cracks to appear, and it causes things to move, and it causes volcanoes to erupt. And so there's all kinds of stuff that happens as a result of that. So that's how the sun, very simplistically, impacts the earth. Now, the second part of it is I go to a guy by the name of Dutch Since, and that's S-I-N-S-E. So he gives a very good, detailed explanation of what's going on tectonically. So he quite often uses the usgs.gov/ I believe it's earthquake map, and I'll put a link to it down below. I'll have links for all of these for you. And but he shows how things are happening. Now, what's happened is Suspicious Observers has told us for the last couple of days we've had M-class flares erupting from the sun, impacting the earth. As a matter of fact, day before yesterday, very high impact, M, almost an X, hit the earth. That caused the aurora borealis, the northern lights. They were seen as far south as Kansas and Missouri. A really big electrical show. And what happens right with that? Well, all of a sudden, we've got 3 7.0 earthquakes, 2 in the Kermadec Islands, just off of New Zealand, 1 just off of Sumatra, the westernmost island of Indonesia, in the Pacific Ocean. As a matter of fact, they even had a tidal wave warning out for that one. But then they stopped it about a couple hours later, because there was no tidal wave as a result of that. But anyhow, so we've had 3 7.0s. We had a whole bunch of 5.6s, a whole bunch of 5s, 4.6s, high 4s, low 5s, mid 5s. Now, that's been following basically the Pacific plate, okay? So it's been going up from Indonesia, up along into China, and then Japan, the Kamchatka, into the Aleutian Islands, around Alaska, and then along the west coast. It's also going to be coming along. We see a lot of activity happening along the North American plate. And so Texas, I live right on one of those fractures separating me from the North American plate. I'm on the wrong side. I'm not on the North American side. I'm actually on the other side. And this is the Balcones fault line, which goes up to the New Madrid fault line. But anyhow, so you've got this activity that's going to be coming along. White City had a couple earthquakes. That's Carlsbad Caverns. Dutch Sense does a very good job of showing a lot of these may be related to drilling. And he shows one of the earthquakes in Oklahoma is right over a major drilling operation where they're doing shale oil drilling. But anyhow, so we got a lot of tectonic activity happening. That's also going to be extending west, and Turkey is one of those areas with high earthquake activity as a result of all this stuff that's going on. So this is appropriate that you ask for this. So what are we going to do? Before the earthquake, we're going to create an emergency kit. We're going to go to ready.gov/kit. ready.gov/kit. I'll put it down below. There's a 2-page checklist of all the things you want to have. Get all your important documents together. Get a go bag if you're in an earthquake-prone area, so you can just grab it as you're running out of the house if possible, or even after the earthquake happens when you need to evacuate. One of the things that's going to be critical in there: 3 days of water, 3 days of food, all your important documents, cash, any valuables that you might have that you can use to survive after it happens. I recommend you, so does Ready.gov, that you have a battery or solar powered radio, so you can turn to an emergency frequency and listen for instructions on where to go. I'll put a link to the one I have. It's a Keito, Keito, and it's solar and battery powered. It's also crank powered, so 3 different ways you can use it. Number 2, you're going to want first aid supplies as well. So make sure you have something that you can take care of puncture wounds as well as cuts and any other injuries. There's going to be some broken bones, so make sure you have some splinting materials added to your first aid kit. Have those available for yourselves. Number 2, secure your home. Make sure that any bookshelves that you have are stable, that they won't fall, they aren't going to topple. I have a friend. He was the keyboardist for the Playboy Mansion in Los Angeles, and then they had the Northridge earthquake, and a bookshelf full of books fell on the head of his daughter's bed. If she had been in that bed when the Northridge earthquake happened, she would have died. So, they decided to move to an earthquake less prone area like Round Rock, Texas. When I was at DLI, Foreign Language Center, West Coast, in Presidio, Monterey, California, was living in a 3-story building, and we were up on the 3rd floor, and we had wooden steps on the outside, and then they had the Watsonville, Gurneyville earthquake of 71, and we felt that down in Monterey, and it separated the stairway from the building. So make sure you have plans on how you're going to get out and how you're going to evacuate after an earthquake as well. So know where your cutoffs are for your gas supply as well as your electrical supply. I would get a non-conductive, so there's a special tool you can get. I'll put a link to it down below from Amazon. Yes, I'll get 2% of what you spend on that if you buy one. Non-conductive, so you can turn your gas off. You don't want any sparks at all if you suspect that there's a gas leak. No open flames. Don't strike a match. Don't do anything. Just turn off your gas supply. Make sure you have it safe. And you got to have that tool before the earthquake happens. So number 3, identify your safe spots. Look for areas where you have door frames. They're great because you have a lot of load-bearing structure underneath. You have a good door frame that's going to support the load structure on top. If you can get an area where you have 2 or 3 of those all at the same time, fantastic. If you don't, alternatives are like we have this German Eckbankgruppe. It's a very heavy oak table designed to seat 8. So you can imagine how humongous this is, and we can fit 2 or 3 people underneath the Eckbankgruppe. That would be a great place, except we want to stay away from exterior walls. We want to stay away from windows. Windows are going to shatter, especially if you have a compression on them. It's going to cause that glass to just fly like bullets. So you want to stay away from glass. Stay interior to your house as much as possible. Number 2, so let's go back and review. Create an emergency kit. I'll give you a checklist for that. Number 2, secure your home. Make sure you don't have anything that can fall on you. Stay away from those. Identify your safe spot inside your house. Number 3 is identify your safe spot. Where are you going to go if it happens? So during the earthquake, you feel this rumbling and everything's starting to shake. What do? Go to your safe spot, duck, cover, hide. Don't come out until the shaking stops. If you can cover yourself with if you have a blanket or anything available to you, a coat, anything to put more mass between you and any falling objects or any glass that may be erupting or any other objects that may be shattering, the better off you are. So get down, face down, put your hands behind your head with your face on the floor, protect the back of your head, and you'll be fine. Stay away from windows is number 2. And stay away from outdoor walls. I already said that. Gosh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Number 3, evacuate safely as soon as possible. And like I said, I was in that 3-story building in Monterey when the Watsonville, Gurneyville earthquake happened. And so, getting out of a 3-story building was kind of complicated when the stairway is separated away from the building. After the earthquake, check for injuries. Check yourself first. We're going to do life-saving first aid. Please, we're going to have 2 different steps of first aid. So the first one we're doing here is life-saving. So if you have arterial wounds, somebody's bleeding, and you can tell it's an arterial wound, stop that bleeding first. That's you want to prolong the life of that person as much as possible. If you think if they have stopped breathing, you can start them again with CPR or with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, do that. Once you've got that person good, then get out and check for other dangers. So other dangers, so this is step 2. We're going to check for gas leaks. That's where you're going to use that tool and turn off your gas supply. We're also going to check for downed electrical items. If you have that non-conductive thing in your hand that you turn the gas off with, you can use it, although it's fairly short. It's only like 8 or 10 inches. You might want to have something wooden with you so you can move any electrical lines that are down away from the area where you are, where it might start a fire or where it might be into. A lot of times these are also during thunderstorms, which we're supposed to have this afternoon. A down power line gets wet in the water. You might want to move it away from the water, or you stay away from the water, but that's hard to do in a rainstorm. But anyhow, you get the idea. So then, after we've checked for hazards and reduced the hazards, then we're going to administer other first aid, the non-life-threatening first aid. So this is if a person has a fracture, you're going to splint that fracture. This is where if they have some venal bleeding. And so the difference between the venal bleeding and the arterial bleeding is arterial bleeding spurts. Venal bleeding kind of oozes out, and so does capillary bleeding. So, you can tell. You want to stop the spurting before you go to step 2. Then you can take care of the other bleeding in step 3. Just a priority of saving lives, okay? Number 4, turn on your radio, listen to local authorities because you've already gotten as far away from this area as you can. Number 5, check for damage. Secure any documents if you can. If it's safe to do so. If you think that the home or your building is structurally unsafe, do not go back into it. Likewise, if something has fallen on somebody, okay, so let's say a bookshelf falls on somebody, there's nothing else on top of the bookshelf, you can lift that bookshelf up to retrieve that person. On the other hand, if the bookshelf has fallen and it looks like there's a wall that is being supported by that bookshelf and it's on top of this person, and if you lift that bookshelf up, it's going to cause further damage to the structure, then you could be endangering other people by saving this one person. So wait for professionals to come in and help with the recovery of that person. They know how to shore that up so that you don't injure others with your good intentions of saving one. And then number 5, be prepared for extended recovery. So, that's where you're going to have to evacuate the area. You're going to use your 3 days worth of food and water. You're going to need those important documents to substantiate who you are and what to do with them. So that's kind of what we're going to do. And so let me go through those one more time. Before the earthquake, create an emergency kit, secure your home, identify hotspots. During an earthquake, identify safe spots, number 3. Number 2, during the earthquake, drop, cover, hold on in your safe spot. Number 2, stay away from windows or anywhere where there might be any kind of shattering, outside doors, walls, etc. Number 3, evacuate safely as soon as possible. After the earthquake, number 1, take care of life-threatening injuries first, especially on yourself first and then others. Number 2, check for hazards, remove the hazards if possible. Number 3, perform other first aid on other people as necessary. Number 4, listen to the local authorities. Number 5, check for damages. And then number 6, be prepared for extended recovery. So that's kind of where we are. So remember, I hope this helps you an awful lot. Dutch Sense is going to help you with the earthquake information. Suspicious Observers is going to help you with the solar information. Ready.gov/kit is going to help you with building your kit. And I'll put some links down below. So remember, we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Please be kind, polite, and respectful to each other because togetherness is the key. Take care. Bye-bye.